Happy birthday, Cashew. Did I just say cashew? Cashew. Nice to see you, Lauren. Nice to see you, Andrew. Everybody hear me okay? Hey, Ruth. Hey, Hillary. Hey, Levi. Oh, good. Gabrielle, you're always the first to jump in to let me know that you in fact can hear me. I appreciate it. Very happy to be here. Welcome, Bruce from San Francisco. Jennifer. Mitch, Siobhan, Lori, Nancy, Kent, Fred, Bonnie, all the regulars. So appreciate you, the regulars, the regular commentators, the regular non-commentators, hanging out in the background. Look forward to my weekly connect. And appreciate everyone who's here for the first time. This is the Do Nothing Project. My name is Jeff Warren. Andrew over the blue font and Lauren in the blue font are helping to moderate, and so sometimes post links to things, something I might mention, or to other things that might be of interest in the community. And also, so the way this works is, say a few words of intro. I'm going to guide a simple 25-minute sit, and then there's often a kind of little community discussion about some aspect of it afterwards, and it's really not this top-down thing. It's more, hey, I did that practice, this is what my experience was, or this is what I've noticed. That's kind of the spirit. And it's quite minimal. That's the Do Nothing, part of the Do Nothing project, is that we don't get too ambitious here in our 25 minutes on a Sunday evening, at least Eastern Standard Time, although I appreciate everyone who's checking in from different time zones. I know we get Australian, New Zealand, people from Hong Kong, and Europe later. Probably sleeping now, but anyway, very good to see everybody. So I am your very tired host, Jeff Warren. Also part of the Do Nothing thing is just coming to you live from the actual trenches of real life. I got 2 little kids under 3, and it's been a pretty intense few days. And the thing that's been in my head is this. First of all, I've just been grateful for the little bits of time I get to meditate, because there's always this sense in which, as I close my eyes and start to get settled, it's like I remember the neutrality of things, the neutrality in my senses in particular, like this, the hum of the sounds around me, the feeling of the breath, like all these senses that don't have, they're just the things in themselves showing themselves to you, and you're like, there's a sense in which you can rest, the mind can rest, there are fewer problems. And that's kind of, I've been thinking about this idea of fewer problems, it's interesting, like you get a flavor of that even in a short sit when you're obviously all up in your stuff, and like we all are, and then as you sit, the direction is to not necessarily feed the thoughts, but just to go into a simple home base, the breath, or just the feeling of being, and that stuff can start to kind of cool out a little bit. And so in that sense, you could say fewer thoughts, fewer problems. But there's a deeper way in which that becomes true, sort of through meditation and through life. And it's kind of harder to describe. It was something that used to happen a lot for me when I would go on longer retreats, which I don't have the luxury of doing now with 2 little kids. But, you get into these places where, like, after the surface thoughts cooled out, it was like deeper layers of urgency, struggle, the sense of stakes, the feeling of a hierarchy in the world, that things have to go a certain way or shouldn't go another way, and all this sort of subterranean struggle that you don't realize how invested you are in, that and how exhausting and continuous it is, that can begin to rest. And then really, truly, you can sort of start to see, wow, it's like there are less problems. There are almost no problems. And it's not that there aren't tons of problems, but it's like the problems in your life are suddenly more manageable. They're not seen as just problems. They're seen as just what's happening. and how to respond to them seems more clear. And I think a lot of people can relate to some version of this happening through practice. So I thought that would be our theme tonight in our do nothing theme. It's going to be a basic meditation about nothing, guided minimally, but I'm going to just keep that prompt in mind around fewer problems and I'll try to see if I can put a pointer or two in around that, and we'll just see where we end up. Yes, as always, very grateful to you all. Thank you. If you're new, and again, I don't often see the comments until later. But I will look at them afterwards. And yeah, I'm going to do a retreat at Omega this weekend. So if some of you are there, that would be great to meet you in person starting this Friday. And Andrew's going to be there. Omega has part of it online. That's right. Fred is saying it's going to be live streamed as well. So and that'll be fun. It's like a Friday night, Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon, Sunday morning. So it's really 4 sections. It's really fun for me to do these. I do these a couple times a year. I'm going to probably start doing them more often. But they're basically like, in my mind, it's like, how do I distill everything that I think is important about mental, emotional, and spiritual health in these 4 sections, in these 3 days, via the lens, the prism of meditation. Like, what can I offer in this that has the most concentrated learning and impact, and yet is accessible. That's kind of how I think about it. So it'd be great to have you along for any part of it, and let's do nothing. Okay, so as always with every do nothing project, if you have your own practice, your own version of sitting around, you can do that, whatever that looks like for you, or you can follow along with these loose suggestions or invitations. I like to start with a few deliberate, slow breaths. It's sort of like this grinding of a huge gear that's like turning from this orientation to my thoughts and the challenges of my life towards the inner world. Not just the inner world, the sensory world too, but the world of the now, the world of the body. That's why we start with a couple breaths, feeling what it's like to breathe, feeling what it's like to have a body. It's like, oh yeah, I got one of these. I forgot. You can always lengthen the exhales slightly if you feel like a little bit of deliberate down regulating. It's subtle but significant. Old teacher Shinzen used to say, subtle is significant. Or on the opposite side, if you're feeling a bit sleepy, just really extending the in-breath. That's just good for producing a little more alertness, stretching up the spine. Again, very subtle, but nonetheless, it's part of the practice. So some people, it's just about just sitting and being. Letting your attention goes where it goes. The only real bit of instruction is not maybe deliberately feeding worries and thoughts, but choosing instead to come back just the sense of yourself sitting here, just being here. And it can help to have a home base, a simple sensation to pay attention to, one that's essentially neutral, whether it's the sound of the hum in your room or a fan, or it could be the breath. Now the breath's not neutral for some people. Some people find the breath kind of triggering, or makes them anxious thinking about paying attention to it too much. So it doesn't have to be that for you, but others find it relaxing. And it could be the feeling of the air on your skin or the warmth in your hands. Anything really. You could have your eyes open. It could be just looking at the ground in front of you. That's your home base. Something that you can just, essentially, you're calibrating your attention into something relatively neutral. And you do it with a lot of patience because you're not in any rush. It's like, oh yeah, here you are. I'm going to just be here with you. So if you're like me, sometimes I notice as I'm settling that my nervous system is still kind of like a little bit amped, a little bit feeling the stakes of my life, like gripping, vigilant. So we can again be kind of deliberate, lengthening the out breaths. Just seeing a thing often allows it to let go. If there are lots of thoughts still there, just letting them wind down in their own time. But your main attention is on something simple, something neutral. Although it can be pleasurable too. If you find something enjoyable in the soft breath or the hum around you, then you can kind of get into it. You can have this sort of a intuit relationship with it, although not gripping it, just appreciating it. yourself sort of take in here. How much of the neutrality of this sensation or sound can you kind of let in? Can you notice? Can you acknowledge? Because that's a place of rest. It's a kind of oasis. In fact, you realize the world is a kind of oasis, waiting for us to rest in, meaning just resting in things as they are, not trying to change the breath or the sound, not trying to make it less or more. resting in things as they are. Letting everything come to you. The sounds and the sensations and even the sights. Okay, good. Well, we finish with a simple appreciation practice, maybe in keeping with this theme. Just letting different people come into your mind's eye. It may just be one person or a few. And just practice appreciating them for, yeah, here's the cue, I guess, for who they are. Like the practice of trying to see this person without judgment. Like they're just part of nature. Like they're just a creature from the forest that came into your life. And you're just seeing them. Or maybe it's just the idea of them, but or you could picture them. Be a friend, a colleague, somebody you know well, somebody you don't know well, be an animal. And just seeing them for themselves. Appreciating them. Just exploring what this is like. Not trying to deliberately generate warmth or loving kindness feelings, although those come, great. More just what happens when we try to see someone clearly. meaning how they look, how they move, the character in their face, the way they laugh, the way they act surprised. If it's easier for you to do this with a phrase, like you could say, may you be well, or may you be happy, or something like that, if that kind of supports this practice for you. Just refreshing this person or finding a new person and just appreciating them. Thanks, friends. Valentina. I can remember to bring the neutrality to mind during the day, but how can I deal with rumination in the middle of the night? Yeah, that is a tricky scenario, the midnight rumination. So actually, there's kind of a different possible responses to that, but what comes to mind right now for me is I actually wrote a book called The Head Trip, all about different states of consciousness, and kind of my favorite chapter, if you want it, you can email me and I'll send it to you in a PDF, is about this state called the watch. It's about segmented sleep. It was actually the first journalistic book about segmented sleep. Now people talk a lot about it, but this was back in when I was researching it in the mid, like 2005 or 6 or something. But basically this idea is that that pre-industrial revolution, pre-light bulbs, we naturally slept in these longer nights, meaning humanity, and the sleep was more segmented. There was this chunk of being awake in the night, and it was natural. Even now, even with these consolidated 8 or 10 hour chunks or 4 hour, or whatever your sleep is, there are these, when you look at the sleep cycles, we kind of come up for wakefulness, they kind of peak up and go back down again, and that's kind of natural. So where I'm going with this is, I used to wake up a lot of the night, and I still occasionally do, and when I see it not as a problem, I see it as like it's not my sleep is broken, and I try to like put away my worry about what needs to happen right day, next day I got to be rested, da 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 da, when I just let it be what it is, when I let this be a period of kind of quiet thought in the middle of the night, I find it makes a lot of the rumination go away, like the more intense rumination. Because a lot of the rumination is about, oh, I'm screwed because I'm not sleeping, and then you start thinking about all the things you got to do the next day and all your worries. And so I find that is one way to help. But then another way is just you can do just a simple practice at that time too, where you just, if you really find that focusing on another sensation isn't working at that time, then you can actually use the thoughts themselves as meditation objects, meaning you just get curious about this strange voice that's speaking, whatever the chorus of voices, the different, I do a thing where I just kind of go, okay, what's here? And it's like literally like you're untangling what's there. Because like the experience of thinking isn't just a single thought stream. It's all these thoughts interjecting on each other, interrupting, coming in. You know, you're embarrassed about the way you acted, but you're still mad at the person, but you're thinking about how it could look in the future and how did that come off at other people who are watching, and you got like 5 different parts of you that are worried about the same thing. That's what makes it so, the experience of thinking, so uncomfortable. And so if you can kind of clarify the different strands of what's active using, you know, a basic mindfulness practice, just being able to see the thing can often kind of cool it out. Now I just offered that as those are a couple suggestions. I'm interested in what other people would say, and a lot of this is just sort of exploring. It's kind of trial and error. You try different things and you see what clicks or what works, but those 2 things can be helpful for me. Yeah, I also finding a good herbal sleep supplement at the beginning of the night was helpful. Yeah. Anyway, friends, thanks for all that. Levi has a hilarious report about spinning disc of a carnival ride. Thanks, Ruth. I like that post. Yeah. Hey, Tisha. Yeah. Oh, nice to meet you, Holly. Sorry about losing your mom. Well, welcome to the community. It's a good place to land here. People saying nice things about Head Trip. Yeah, it's mostly about sleep and dreaming, that book. Not sure now if the online portion, I think it will be recorded and available. I don't actually know. I should say, you know, it's not like a, if you're interested in coming to either the online or in-person one, it's not, you know, it's kind of probably more a workshop than a retreat. You know, when I used to do retreats, it was like dead, it's just silent the whole time. You just meditate, and then there'd be like one Dharma talk at night. This is not like that. This is kind of like you're workshopping an understanding of what practice is and the skills and how, so there is a lot of, in a sense, thinking and learning and what's going on, so that, and that's something I feel like you can take away. And then, of course, there's quite a bit of meditating too, but it's, and then there's sharing and from other people, and so it's not, if you're thinking you want some really, really peaceful, quiet 3 days, that might not be the thing. Although it might be comparatively more peaceful than probably is for most people in their lives. Yeah, I like hypnagogic state. All right, friends, well, I'm going to go and, I don't know what I'm going to go do. Probably sleep. I think we had some scholarships for the thing, so I don't know if those are gone yet. Lily would know. Yeah. Okay, friends. Thanks very much. See you next Sunday. Have a great week. Indeed, I am sleepy. All right. Good night.